Hello and welcome to the demo of the new Tungsten Dashboard version 8, a browser tool to monitor and operate on your clusters in real time. Here's the rundown of the information you've got on the front page. At the very top you can find the cluster filters, along with the search, the help tool and the notifications panel. In short, the filters allow you to filter the clusters page using the state of the cluster that you have. In this case, warning and error state filters are inactive because no clusters are in that state. On the left side of the screen, we have the navigation where dashboard is this page, clusters page you already saw, and then we have the user management and logout, as well as a little bit of information about the current session at the very bottom here. You can expand and collapse this sidebar using the arrow icon here. At the center, we've got the cluster widget. Each widget contains the information about the cluster state indicated by the icon, where green indicates everything is going well, yellow indicates a warning, and a red indicates an error state. More about these on the clusters page. Next, we have the cluster's name, which can be used as a link you can share to your colleagues or filter the results of the cluster page. Next to that, we have the connection count to that cluster, and if you hover over the information icon, you can see a breakdown of the connection numbers. On the second row, you have the topology label for a given cluster, in this case, composite active-passive cluster, and next to that, we have information about the cluster itself. Each of the hosts in that cluster have a specific icon corresponding to their role. In here we have the large uniform green bar, which indicates a primary host for the cluster service, and the color green indicates that everything is going well inside that particular host. The slightly smaller uniform bar indicates a replica, so we have two here, and again the green color indicates everything is well. The little dot is a witness, and witness role and a witness hosts are indicated by a smaller icon, and they have less information available to them. The final piece of information is the two dots connected by a small line. This is a relay that is unique to composite active-passive clusters. The services inside these clusters are separated by a little vertical line. If you need more details, consult the help overlay. You can find it at the top right. Clicking the question mark icon opens the overlay. And now on the page you can see highlights on the interactable elements. Hovering over them gives you an explanation of what each of these does. For example, here is the explanation of the cluster roles. You can close this overlay by clicking anywhere or clicking the escape button. Next, let's look at the clusters page. From the clusters page, you can view detailed information about your clusters updated in real time. You can also perform several maintenance and monitoring related actions from this page. But before we touch the clusters themselves, a quick note about the tools available to you. To find the cluster you need, use the cluster filters up top or the search tool to the far right. The search tool itself allows you to search clusters by their name or by their service name. You can also search clusters by their tags that you've given them. So for example, prod or QA. Alternatively, you can click on a cluster name or a tag. Every filter that you use on the clusters page is available in the URL, and you can use that to share URLs with your coworkers in case you need their attention. Just underneath the top navigation, you have the toolbar for the clusters page. These tools allow you to modify the view that you have. For example, by expanding all of your clusters, by turning the simple view on, limiting the amount of information shown to you, and by collapsing all of the clusters. At the center, you've got each cluster as a row. Each row details out the topology of the given cluster, the state of that cluster, indicated by the icon and its color, the name of the cluster, which is the clickable link, the state of the cluster's primary data service, the dashboard calculated status for the cluster. This is usually OK, warning, or error, depending on the worst status inside the cluster itself. So if one of the cluster's components is in error status, this one will also be error for the entire cluster. Next to that, we have the policy switch, which allows you to change the policy of the cluster. Next to that, we have the connection amount, the coordinators, and finally in the namespace tag that we gave the cluster when we added it to the dashboard. On the far right, we have the information icons. In this case, my QA clusters are warning me that the connection is not secure between the dashboard and the cluster itself because I did not enable the SSL connection. Next to the icons, we have the lock feature. More about this in the cluster operations section. And finally, we have the cluster actions themselves. To expand any one of these clusters, click on the little arrow icon underneath the status. Standalone clusters, indicated by the label here, show the hosts of that given cluster immediately underneath the row. For composite clusters, what you will see first is the services. These service headers are mostly the same as the cluster headers themselves, but they, instead of the topology, they will have the role of the service indicated in the label. Additionally, they have different actions depending on what role they are in. The actual data sources are underneath each service. Please be aware that when it comes to the actions dropdown, for either the data source, a service, or the cluster itself, it is affected for the clusters by the topology, for the service by its role, and for the data sources by its role. That concludes this dashboard demo. Hope you found it informative and hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.